This should have probably been an off-topic Tuesday, but I got too stuck into doing that intro video the other day, so it wasn't. I don't know how societally we're going to get out of this doom loop that it seems that we're in, because how do you persuade people? It seems like, as a lefty certainly, but it seems like you're supposed to just eat endless shit from people in the faint hope that people on the other side of the issue will eventually come around to your point of view once they've been hurt enough by the decisions that they've been making. But that never seems to happen, and we seem to be inclined to go along to get along more. Right, it often happens that I am on an apolitical stream and then someone on the right sounds off about something political, but because I have more consideration for the host and don't like to bully and overtalk people, that no counter argument is ever heard, and I'm left feeling kind of shit. And they never seem to change. There seems to be a stubborn, like 1/3 of people, 30 to 33% or so, who are almost completely unpersuadable about something. Whether that's the Brexiteers, who can't admit that the whole thing has been a shit show from the get-go, or the diehard MAGA supporters who used to worry about FEMA concentration camps and paedophiles, cults, and all of this kind of nonsense. They used to be dead set against all of that and imagined it where it didn't exist. But now that it's here in the open, but it's someone that they like, they don't believe it or anything to do with it. It's a bit weird, isn't it? You tie your whole identity to something that you conjure up out of your own diseased imagination, for the most part. And then when something along those lines actually happens, crickets, after maybe a day or two of internal wrangling. Debate doesn't work. That doesn't persuade anybody. The person who wins the debate is only minorly influenced by who has the facts. And almost every debate ends up being a gish gallop of abject nonsense from one side, and then it takes considerably more time to debunk nonsense than it does to proclaim it. It's very easy to say the earth is flat, just look at it, compared to no, the earth is an oblate spheroid. You've lost people there, right? When you said the word oblate, most people, their brains have left the building at that point. Oh, it's a complicated word, I don't know what it means. And the proof, requires maths, or believing that we went to space, things that they're willing to dismiss instantly. So you can't persuade them, and that's the problem. Reality is difficult. Reality, it has long been said, has a left-wing bias, and until about 2010 or so, that was pretty much a truism. Things have weakened since then. I think the grip on science on the left has loosened. But the underlying truth of it remains. The keystone things that people tend to believe on the left remain true. Cooperation is a better survival strategy. Collectivization allows for greater leverage, economy of scale, all of that kind of stuff. More democracy tends to be good. More local democracy tends to be good. The law should treat people equally. And that tends to be better for society. All of that stuff remains true. There's other stuff at the fringes that is a bit more difficult. So, reality has a left-wing bias, but unfortunately, reality is also messy and complicated. And this is at the root of another truism that the left can't meme. It kind of rings true. I don't think historically it's necessarily 100% true, but these days it seems to ring true. Memes, as we think of them now, are distillations and shortcut expressions of ideas. The more simple, and honestly more likely wrong, your argument is, the more memeable it is. Immigrants, Turkey, gerbs. is a lot catchier than a long essay, grounded in Marxist political language, explaining the case for class solidarity and how immigration adds to the overall national wealth and therefore betters everyone's lot, especially in the longer term, or age demographics, things like that, things you have to have at least a basic grasp of mathematics to understand. It's not that there aren't simple mimetic phrases on the left. Tax the rich is a good one. Class war, not race war, is another good one too. But the racial animus of the skinhead is a lot simpler and a lot more primal than the social categorization of class, especially as old ideas of class break down and haven't really been redefined outside of advertising target segments. So facts don't persuade people. I mean, even outside of a debate, all people will do is call the source into question under the flimsiest of pretexts if they disagree with it, often while simultaneously unquestioningly believing whatever dark money funded think tank or compromised study, fake or selective stats there are that confirm their biases. They don't even know how to assess this stuff. Like, for example, women and girls, you are much more likely to be assaulted by the gammon next to you at one of these immigration hotel protests than you are an immigrant. Of the rioters arrested last year for similar protests, some 40% had previous or have since been arrested for sexual or other forms of physical assault or for interfering with kids. The English Defence League, Tommy Robinson's old outfit, had well over 100 child touchers in it. That's well above the national average. But these statistics don't seem to matter. Instead, they'll cite, if anything, God help us, a GB News article or Migration Watch, which is to immigration statistics what the Institute for Creation Research is to biology. So do the real stats matter? No. So I mean, what the fuck do you do when reality doesn't matter? Genuine question, I don't know. But there does seem to be a bit of a race to the bottom. More and more people on the left are advocating taking up the far right's methodologies. Not sure that's such a great idea. Long term, short term, I'm sure it'll be effective, but it just makes everyone as bad as each other. So I don't know. But why is it like this? I mean, media is not mind control. The idea that you can be sort of Manchurian candidated into a rapist by pornography or a murderer by playing GTA is, and always has been, absurd and debunked by any serious research into these kind of ideas since forever. There's those pesky statistics again. You're also less likely to commit suicide if you play tabletop role-playing games, while we're on the subject, so Pat Pulling was wrong from the start. However, modern media consumption, at least when it comes to news and current affairs, is increasingly driven by social media and therefore by algorithms. The more we interact with certain kinds of content, the more it is served up to us. What we click on most often on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and most of all TikTok, becomes what is served to us more and more and more. We unconsciously, or sometimes consciously, train our individuated algorithms to show us more of the same stuff. And then there's all the botnets and bot farms to consider, creating a sense of false consensus for those who pay for them, almost entirely the rich and the right wing. And despite ad populum being a fallacy, a lot of people will tend to go with the crowd. That's why it's easier to grow an already big channel on YouTube, network effects, and so on. I mean, that's why it's a crowd. I used to have a badge that said 100,000 lemmings can't be wrong, which was originally intended as more of a suicide joke, but it does reflect the kind of mindset that we're talking about here, and also reflects the problem with disinformation, given that suicidal lemmings is nonsense, total bollocks, cooked up by Disney to put bums on seats for their nature documentaries. And that was before the internet, and that meme, the suicidal lemming, is still with us. And yet, while clever, these algorithms are also dumb in some ways. If you tend to click on and like far-right content, you will get more of it. But if you click on and argue with far-right content, you know, debunk a far-right talking point on a post, whatever it might be, you'll also get served more far-right content. And then that forces you to retrain your app to not serve you more of that enraging bullshit, which means you avoid interacting with it, and the people spewing that bullshit get less and less pushback over time as you try to spare your mental health. So you're stuck avoiding it or being force-fed it, one way or the other. And if you're force-fed it and that is all you see, a lot of people will tend to trend in that direction. By a process then of inclusion and exclusion, we're all segregated into our own little individual digital North Koreas, where we only ever hear the particular party line that we've been sorted into, like some sort of demented sorting hat. House MAGA, House Feminazi, House Wet Liberal. Media monocultures still aren't brainwashing, but they're as close as you can get to it. And that does have an effect at the societal scale in sculpting and shaping the narratives, the stories, everything else that we interact with, how we think the world is. You know, my despair at the state of public discourse may well be the result of this. I mean, moving away from just show me people I follow in chronological order as social media output was a mistake, but that was less profitable, and heaven forfend someone have one less super yacht for the sake of societal cohesion and common reality, and yeah, that's yet another problem with a pure profit motive. So I don't know how to fix it. That die-hard, unpersuadable 30% at the core of any position has power far beyond their actual numerical numbers in undemocratic electoral systems like the US and UK, and I'm aware that sounds like an oxymoron, but it isn't. Facts don't matter, debates don't sort for truth, bursting your ideological bubbles takes effort, and we're evolutionarily cued to take the path of least resistance. Anything that requires effort on our individual part is a non-starter. Government legislation? Maybe? Like, you know, the fairness doctrine, something like that for the internet age. But the law is a blunt instrument, and our institutions move too slowly to react to the modern moment and modern technology. That's why we have BS like digital ID spreading from country to country and state to state, and damn the consequences. 20th century solutions to 21st century problems identified using 19th century analysis. So sorry for the doomerism, but these problems seem to me to be pretty self-evident, and the solutions are not practicable. Individual responsibility and action runs up against the laziness and irresponsibility of most people. Governments are ill-suited, don't understand the technological landscape, and use blunt instruments that catch innocent people in the crossfire, as we're seeing right now. Corporations that are responsible for these problems are not about to grow a conscience or to refuse to sell advertising or access to groups that want to use and abuse their platforms. That 30% of diehards are never going to change, it seems, and the 70% that remains are all divided, with many different ideas and a lot of bitter recrimination over it between them, barely able to come together on their hatred of the 30% on any particular issue. So I'm afraid I don't hold out much hope, unless we get another paradigm-shifting communications technology, or unless governments catch up and wise up and are a bit smarter in how they try to do anything about this. Of course, I may be wrong. The printing press was a huge revolution, right? The internet was a huge revolution. Social media was a huge revolution. We adapted to the printing press. Fine. And that was after centuries of indoctrination that the printed word was gospel. And we managed to get out of that. It is possible that the truly internet native cohorts coming up, the younger millennials and the generations below that. It's possible that they have developed some sort of immune system to being misled on the internet. There's some indications of that in statistical data. Again, statistical data doesn't matter. That's the faint glimmer of hope that I'm holding on to. Anyway, have a lovely Wednesday. Zang.
Fatal Highway is a set of post-apocalyptic road war rules for Fate. This is a quick set of tried and tested rules for vehicles, vehicle chases, vehicle weapons, and operating at scale. This version also contains some ideas written up for a Fate version of 45 Psychobilly Retropocalypse. This booklet is all about cars, chases, crashes, and some post-apocalyptic inspiration for those who want to play Road Warriors. You can purchase it at post-mort.com, lulu.com, and DriveThruRPG.